So now, question and answers. And this is why Scott, Aaron, Carrie are here, because there may be some technical answers that I may not be able to offer. So, questions from the audience? Yes?
Can you tell me specifically what would be done to like the classroom doors?
Well,
Do we know yet?
well, the plan is the framing, yeah.
We would have the other somewhat door frames that would be replaced, potentially the door slab, and then the hardware would have ADA lever handle hardware. They've come up with hardware now that you have a latch on the inside, so the teacher would be able to latch it and it says locked and unlocked, so they know if there's something that does happen, they immediately know it's locked and they don't have to second guess if their key's available or not.
Or the traditional way is you gotta open it up to lock it, to shut it. This way you don't have to do that. The other thing that they're looking at, we've done at Wyandotte as an example, we put the vision glass on the opposite side. Because obviously a vision glass you can break and just do that. If it's on the opposite side, unless you got real long arms, I don't. But, to reach around and get it. Because you still want to have that visual communication, not for the bad guy, but for the ongoing. That's an option. A lot of districts do it, some don't.
So, yeah, this is the scope of the work that we're showing you, and those details that they're discussing, those will be fleshed out, but those answers, once we move closer to the decision of being able to do this, those answers will be available to the public and everything. So, yes?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So when you talk about elementary school parking lot, is that basically where the teachers park, kind of behind the school and next to the football
That is
field?
correct. It's the parking spaces that our community can access. So the question was about the elementary school parking lots. And it's the space that is located on the north side of the building that the public can access to get to the pool, the community pool that's back there. But then the teachers park there as well, and then staff park in there. And then when we have home sporting events that are back in that area with our home football games, that's also a very communal space that is there. So that is the elementary portion. The middle school portion is the portion that extends. It's a shared space just outside that middle school area, but then also the north side of this building where the buses are for drop-off and pick-up as well. So all of that would be completely taken out, and then the downspouts would be redone to not impair that area again. It would be done for good, and that would be a fix that we would make sure that, because if you've ever, like today, you go back there, and I've been there when it's been raining, you can't physically stand next to the field because the pooling water is there, and it's just an issue. And then where does that go? Well, it seeps into the cracks and it breaks up the asphalt
Makes it
and the
worse,
base.
yeah.
and the
Oh, I know,
base.
I dropped my daughter off at the high school
Yeah.
and it's getting really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure tomorrow it'll be terrible
Yes.
after all this rain.
Yeah. So other questions? I know you said you had a couple
My
questions.
other question was football field track. Have we ever discussed, or have you ever discussed moving the football field over to where the new track is?
We are, and the question was about the high school football field and track, moving the existing field over. The issue but with that is, 2 years ago, I believe that was a request that was made to the public, and there was a resounding answer given. And if that is done, that is something that the district would be prepared to do on its own if it could, or at a later time. But we have to use our existing facilities the way they are, and to get those existing facilities up to a code that we find acceptable, that's why the request has been made for those stadiums seating to be done. So our hope would be, ultimately one day, perhaps, but not in the immediate future. This request does not have that in that request. So.
And it would be great to get bathrooms out there, but I'm sure that's really expensive too.
Yeah, there's other funding mechanisms that you can look into to do things that we could explore that we would generate as a district, that we wouldn't go potentially after voter approval for. That's why we're trying to be good fiscal stewards here. That's why the technology, there's nothing technology in this request, and there's no transportation in this request, because there's a burden of responsibility that our district has, that we feel that's necessary. Other questions? You're a talkative group, I gotta tell you. Calm down. I really appreciate all of you coming, and here I had these experts here waiting for questions to come and, people to ask a lot of things. I just know that this is exciting for us as a district. This plan And the tenets of it, I know as a co-chair of the facility subcommittee, and Mr. Keith is the other co-chair for the facility subcommittee in our district strategic plan, we're very excited about this possibility. This is gonna do some things for our district that will really help enhance what we already have. And it builds upon the success of, okay, we know we've got great things happening, this just builds upon it, and it makes it much more safe. So, go ahead.
If we just built this Mondo High School over there and spent all these millions of dollars on it, how can it be falling apart so
It's a
quickly?
great question.
I mean, what happened to the people that built that? Can't we hold them accountable?
Great question. So the question was about holding the architect potentially accountable, or the roofer accountable, or whoever accountable in that area. And I know, as a district, when that was built, there was a committee that was formed to work on it. And I know some of those individuals are here this evening and had conversations with them about this. And the company, about 8 or 9 years ago, I know came to the board and said, we've got this agreement that we want you to agree to, so we have some money that we're gonna pay you, and basically, we're done now with your punch list. And so the board at that time agreed to do, to take that and say, we're good. The company that put the roof on is out of business. So there's no recouping any of that. And so it's just a decision where, it's a combination of things. It's a beautiful building. Guess what? We have to take care of it now. And that's that's where we are. And we're gonna plan to do some things to that building to make sure it's being taken care of in the long term. And that's very important to us. So unfortunately, there's not much we can do after it's already been done. It's been about 16 years since that building has been put in place.
So it almost sounds like a scam.
I don't want to
For lack
say it
of
was,
any-
and I'm obviously in a public professional manner trying to tell you
Oh,
what I
right.
know, but I don't want to stoop to that, because I have known, I wasn't in the district at that
Oh,
point.
absolutely.
So I don't know
I
the
fully
details of
understand
that. However, I do know that there are aspects that had gone into that design of that building that, will be scrutinized when this new work gets done. And we'll make sure that things are done the right way when
It
the
just
work
sounds
is done.
odd that the natatorium, roof looks like that, already. And it's not been there, 100 years like the school has. I mean,
Right.
my father-in-law, went to this school, kindergarten, my father-in-law graduated from this school, I don't know how many years ago, he's like 70 years ago or
Okay.
whatever. I mean, he's 88 years old, so
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
at least 70 years ago, my father-in-law graduated. And he remembers coming here, and he constantly, asks me questions, well, why are they doing that? When I went there 70 years ago, I'm like, well, Grandpa, 70 years ago,
Things were a little different.
things were a little bit different now, and it's hard for him to even comprehend that there's a separate high school,
One of the
because
things-
everything was done here.
One of the things I'm very impressed with, and this was struck me, is, having been in the building as a long-term sub 20 years ago, and then coming back now as a superintendent here, I literally, one of my first times when I was in the building in July, walking through, because I was very familiar with this campus, and walking through and just seeing things, what great shape it is right now. I mean, there are some things in here that you can tell we take great pride in making sure, that building, the middle school, which used to be the high school, 1927. I have people that walk through this building saying, how old is this building? I mean, it's well taken care of. There are aspects of that. So as a community, we're trying to take care of it, and I want very much the legacy for, us as a community at this day and age. We're gonna take care of our things now, and we're gonna make sure it's better. That's where we are. Any other questions? Yeah. go ahead.
Sorry,
No.
just a comment to kind of piggyback on what she said.
Yep.
People need to know that, I think. I think that's part of why things failed a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
And there's lots of, how the rumor mill is.
Yeah.
I think being as transparent as you have been, people spend $5 at Starbucks every day.
I know.
Five.
$8 on a pack of
What
cigarettes
Starbucks
or
are they going
whatever. That it really
I should
isn't,
redefine it from pizza to coffee.
it really isn't a ton of money per household. And if they've ever been over here or they have kids that go here, stuff is really falling apart.
Yeah, we are definitely in that mindset where we
Tracy,
take care of our own.
Tracy, that's a good point. Something that we've learned in this process is you gotta explain why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
understanding the why.
we didn't realize the high school is that old already. Doesn't seem that long ago. Kathy Anger was putting a sign in my front yard, you know?
I
The
know.
bond was
I know.
2,000.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, so that's a good reminder, I think, too, to people, is, and just like at your house, things don't last forever.
No.
And maybe in the 20s, stuff did last forever,
Yeah.
but now stuff doesn't, you know?
So just, and Mr. Plum, I know I'll get to you in just a second, Bill, but just so everyone here is aware, so our timeline, if this is going to move forward, is we have, this timeline in mind, so we want feedback from you. This is something we need from you tonight. And our job then is to scale this into a workable plan. So at our June 12th board meeting, we potentially might have, and I think it's referred to as the scope of work or scale of work. The scope of work, we want to make sure we have in place. The board then will approve that scope of work, and then we have a meeting we would have to schedule then at the Department of Treasury, which we currently have, because if we didn't have it, it doesn't follow the timeline, we'd be out of time. So we have it at the end of June. And then over the month of the summer, we're going to ask Scott Heft and Associates to come, their group, IDI, to come in and do some metrics over the summer. And then we actually would then present back to the board the language, if we're going to go back to the voting public, for ballot language and what that would look like. So remember that date I told you in August? What date was that? August 25th. Okay? That's when we're going to celebrate our district strategic plan. The stuff I just talked to you about tonight is all in there. And then we actually, as a district, will celebrate that. Yours truly then will make sure to inform all of the public of the scope of the work in September and October. And that means visiting the 7 municipalities that our community schools encompasses. So,
I just wanted to say too, and I'm part of the communication part of it, and Susan and I talked about this earlier. One of the issues with tonight was there was no information about it on the website. She tried to look online to see information about tonight, it wasn't there. The newspaper said that it was in the cafeteria,
Oh, okay.
and something else said here, which is why I left, because I walked down just to make sure anybody was there, which there wasn't. But I could see myself as a parent who's not as involved, coming in, walking in the cafeteria, being like, oh, nobody's here, getting discouraged and leaving.
Okay.
So it's that communication piece of making sure that accurate information's out there and that it's available to people.
okay, yeah, great point.
Just as an
Yes.
example, if it was an important meeting, why wasn't it on the school website?
Yeah, great point.
Or nothing
No.
was sent home with kids.
Great point, great point. Yeah, we actually put out a Honeywell alert last Thursday to inform all of our families about it. And then in that alert, there came a flyer that we had shared. And then I know Ms. Whitaker from the Independent just arrived, so we had tried to get the word out in that, publication. So there's definitely improvements that we can make on this issue, absolutely. We're wanting the public to get engaged, absolutely. So, great thoughts. Bill, Mr. Plum.
Not Bill's okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you,
Sure.
because since you've come here and taken over as superintendent, I think you've done a tremendous job of making yourself available, going out, speaking to different groups, addressing everything. And to be perfectly honest, now this is my opinion, so you may not agree with me, Greg, but you've had a lot dumped in your lap. A lot of stuff that wasn't taken care of in the last 5 years that should have been.
Sure.
And I think you're doing a great job. Now, to address a couple of questions that people had. First of all, 2 years ago, on the renewal issue, word didn't get out much on anything. At that time, the thought was, the less said, the better chance it has to pass, which I totally disagree with. I've lived here all my life, and when we built the new school, the community had turned down a millage issue to redo things in here. And our meeting afterwards, because I was on the board at that time, everybody said, well, why'd they turn it down? What do we have to do? And I says, from some of the people I've talked to, the reason it was turned down because they don't feel you're doing enough. And they looked at me like I had horns or something, but it turned out when we went back and proposed a brand-new school, it did pass, and it passed fairly easily.
Okay.
And I thought it was kind of ingenious too, the night of the election. I don't know how well you can determine that, but we had what you can determine, we had an open house here at the school the night of the election. And of course, all the teachers, especially in the middle school and the elementary, you don't get as many going into the high school, but teachers are all reminding the parents when they come in to see how their kids were doing, have you voted yet?
Yeah, one of the things I want to address that you had kind of triggered in my mind is, and getting back to the comments about the communication aspect, one of our key areas at our district strategic plan, communication. We are going to work on that and know that we have a comprehensive plan in place that will be launched to address that issue. And that gets involved with having the multiple platforms of communication that go out there, from social media to the website to word of mouth, to making sure that there's internal, external communication happening. All of those things are being looked at. So I'm just letting you know, that's what's going to make this plan, this district strategic plan, a big, big deal, is because all of those areas that you mentioned to me tonight are being addressed. And we've held, I know, Mr. Keith, our board president, and I, we've been on the steering committee for our district strategic plan. There's a lot of things right now in motion. There's a lot of irons in the fire with regards to that. I'm really excited about that. So you should be receiving a publication from our district in the middle of August, kind of telling you all about our school that used to be done that way. You used to get something at your home mailed to you, and then there's other things that would happen. We're going to be getting back into that business of doing that again, because we feel as though that needs to be a re-engagement of our public. And then probably around the end of October, there'll be another publication coming out with more information about this. And I can't comment really on what our community will choose to do to support or not, I can't really comment on that aspect. But I can tell you this, that it will be much more visible than what you've experienced in the past. So I'm excited for what's to come for y'all. Y'all don't know what's, it's exciting.
In the few months you've been here, it has been so much better. I can't, I have to agree with, Mr. Plum, thank you. Because it is so much different than what it was. And my daughter graduated 2 years ago, and I still have a 7th grader, so I'm still in for quite a while yet. So I've been around for a while.
Sure.
And it's been a huge difference. I've gone through a lot of superintendents over the years, and that's sad to say that I've gone through that many in the last 15 years. But I have. And even though you've only been here 8 months, 6 months, whatever many months it's been, you've been the best that I've seen.
Well,
And you're doing a great job.
Thank you, but, now you're gonna have to explain to my wife why my head is just,
I would be more than happy to, your wife and your children, because it's great what you're doing, for them. People actually know who you are. When I walked through the elementary school and as board members, I walked through the middle school, it was a couple weeks ago, I walked through the school and you were standing outside your office and I said something to one of the kids and I said, "Do you guys know who that is?" And the one boy looked at me, he goes, "Yeah, that's Mr. M." And I said, "Mr. M," and I knew who you were, but I was just trying to, I said, "Oh yeah, that's what we all call him. He shows up to all our assemblies and everything," and I thought, gosh, I don't remember the last time I remember a superintendent showing up to a school assembly, even if it's, the kick butts or, whatever it's about.
well,
You're there for the kids know who you are.
Let's use-
How many other kids can tell, could pick out, in a lineup, could tell who their superintendent of their school was? Our kids can do that.
I'm not gonna pay you the 100 now. No, and what we need to do then is use that momentum and as a community. And that's really what I want is, since I've been here, the title of the organization that we all are part of is Dundee Community Schools. My main goal has been to put the word community back in our organization. And that's what's, connecting. It's connecting. This is something that will connect our community, I think, a little bit more too. So it's gonna take a lot of effort, but we're gonna get there. Yes?
I have found that, just with like my story on the election or the vote for the new school, if you explain things to people in this community, I think the community has been very good in the past as far as supporting the school.
Yeah.
But you can't just sit there and say nothing. You have to explain things and explain it so they can understand it. I've got just one more, I'll make it a short story, but regarding the roof and everything
Yeah.
over there. Again, I was on the board, on the committee when we were designing everything. The architect at that time said, at our first meeting, make your wish list, everything you want. So we did, and we wanted a metal roof. I don't know if everybody understands that or knows that. We originally wanted a metal roof. They came back after pricing everything and said, well, unfortunately, you're about $2 million over budget. The biggest single thing you can cut is that metal roof and go with a shingled roof. Well, there were some other things in their budget too, and I asked them, I says, where are you getting these prices from for everything? Are you pricing things that you would pay around Detroit, or are you checking with local contractors around here that you could do business with? Well, I don't know as if I really got a straight answer from them. But at any rate, they talked us into changing that to a shingled roof. Now, that in itself wasn't necessarily so bad, but what made me mad was when we were all done with the project, we had a surplus of $2 million. Because everything didn't cost what they had figured. And I just wanted, I know there aren't a whole lot of people here from the community anyways, but I just wanted these people to know, because I know a lot of people didn't know that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Bill. Thank you. So, anyone else? Further questions? I really appreciate all of you coming out on such a horrible night, with the weather. But, we'll make sure to get this information on our web and share it openly with our community. And if we need to, engage the public even more, get the word out. But we could certainly use bodies and support from you all, and on our website, there is the District Strategic Planning web link. It's on the main page. You just click on it, and it literally is, this will be on there. It is transparent. All of our meetings are on there. The most recent one, April 24th meeting, is not. And then the subcommittee meetings, the minutes are on there as well. You can follow it, and we're hoping that people get active, because there's going to become a time where this room we're going to need full, for lots of reasons, which is good. So, okay, thank you all. Have a great day.
I got home and mine just.